So in the Heights, Peter Rabbit did perform to Sony's expectations, which good job for Sony for actually being right for once. But you know, Peter Rabbit, I don't think anyone was really gonna care about that movie. That movie was gonna always do well in the UK anyways. And if we count Peter Rabbit as the animated movie, I don't really count it as one. But some people say, "Oh, it's an animated live action hybrid, so it's an animated movie." This is a performance similar to the Angry Birds movie 1 to 2, which is not surprising. The best comparison, I think, is the Angry Birds movie 2. Yes, it will probably barely make back its money like Angry Birds movie 2. It needs like $100 million or so to make money, but it seems that nobody really cares about Peter Rabbit in America as much as the UK does. Okay, yeah. And I think, this is going to be a lesson that you can't just milk sequels over and over and over again. But again, Hollywood's not going to warn the lesson. They're not going to warn the lesson that they can't milk sequels again and over and over and over again. And also the fact that people could pirate this movie from the UK because there are pirated versions going online as well. There's still scared about people not wanting to go see the movie in the theaters. I don't think you can do a comparison here. Create your own comparison chart. But yeah, this movie opens similar to the Angry Birds movie 2. Okay, which is a similar opening. I think is a pretty good one. Angry Birds movie 2, but I think Peter Rabbit 2 and Angry Birds movie 2 should show they just can't just make random sequels just to cash in on a movie to make a franchise. Angry Birds movie 2. Again, I'm not going to say, oh, pandemic, because The Quiet Place 2 showed that movies can do well. Okay? But Peter Rabbit 2 is still continuing the animation curse. Okay? This is comparison to the Angry Birds movie 2. The movie did strikingly similar at the box office. Okay? The only difference is that the Saturday that the weeks were swapped. But the movies basically did the same. But Angry Birds movie 2 did open on like a Tuesday or something like that. But getting that extra $6 million, it opened on a Tuesday or something. But even then, Angry Birds movie 2 only opened to a $10 million in its first weekend. Okay, and it rigged out to, I believe, $41 million. So, Angry Birds movie 2 still ended up with $152 million. Which I believe Peter Rabbit 2 will end up with around $150 million. And they'll say, oh, but still did well, so we're still going to make a sequel to Peter Rabbit 2, even though nobody wanted to see the second movie. And this is the problem of Hollywood. At least if it's at least profitable, they're going to say, you know what? Let's give it another sequel, until people realize that we don't want to see this, okay? We don't want to see this anymore. Okay, Angry Birds movie 2 was barely profitable to making a sequel to it. Wonder Woman 2, 1984, a flop, and they're still making a sequel to Wonder Woman 1984. Okay, I don't know what's going on in Hollywood's mind. So they were trying to recapture the success of the first movie. And I know sequels typically do worse than the first movie. Okay, they typically do worse than the first movie. But Peter Rabbit 2 is doing similar to Angry Birds movie 2. Which I believe is pretty hilarious. It's doing similar to that movie. And Angry Birds movie 2 did have like a 6-day weekend. But we're just going over the first weekends, and both movies are doing very, very, very similar. So I think we have to keep track on this movie. Again, Peter Rabbit doesn't really have any competition coming out in the next 2 weeks. Since the next 2 movies are geared definitely towards older audiences. But Quiet Place 2 recaptured the first place spot because that's the only movie that people actually care about, okay? Whereas this movie is definitely going to make back its money. I think they don't have the sales for Box Office Mojo. This is why nobody likes Box Office Mojo. They don't have the updated sales, but A Quiet Place Part 2 is currently at $161 million worldwide. But they have not updated the foreign sales because Box Office Mojo takes forever to update the foreign international box office sales. But we have In the Heights, which is flopping at the box office. No surprise there. Okay, people are actually complaining that it's what we call the movie woke, but it works. It is basically It's basically, you know what's Panda? It's basically a movie that's trying to pander towards trying to, be like the, wow, and it's trying to be like the next Wow Wow Land, the next Greatest Showman. But I think the problem is they sort of released it around the Oscar season. And at the end, can't find an audience over summer. It's similar to the box office super hit that was the Greatest Showman. It muted to 8.8 million, but it made 174 million domestically for it. 48 million. And yeah, the capable playing for weeks generated strong multiples. And the people apparently did like the movie, but no one wanted to see it. Nobody cared. Okay, Cruella is a flop. I think we don't have to really explain why Cruella is a flop. Basically, okay, Cruella is a flop. But again, we don't know the budget for Cruella. And of course, we have the Iron Curtain of Disney Plus. Next is In the Heights. Don't know how well it did internationally yet. This movie did abysmally. This movie's gonna be a flop essentially, if this movie does not pick up internationally. But again, they did bring up, musicals, like animated movies, typically have very good ratings and don't really do good openings. So anyone who's really expecting a musical to top the box office was really just laughing themselves. But In the Heights, apparently, currently is definitely a box office flop. It needs to make $100 million or so. Next is The Conjuring, Devil Made Me Do It. Again, this movie is not really not having extremely good ratings. It has passed $111 million, so this movie has like a $49 million budget. So this means this movie is not a box office failure. It did do well. It did make back its money. So Conjuring Never Made Me Do It is definitely not in the red. I think Peter Rabbit 2, because of international box office, and they'll probably have good ratings, because the only competition next week is A Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, who's likely to open around 10 to 20 million, and F9, which again, family audiences are going to want to see Peter Rabbit instead. So that movie's going to probably make out like the Angry Birds movie 2, but the Angry Birds movie 2 came out when there was so much competition. Next is Cruella, not surprised. This movie actually is having the Disney legs, but it's not really doing well. 129 million. So the international box office does not give a crap about Cruella. Again, nobody gives crap about this movie. It's basically been dead in the water. Okay, the movie is performing even worse than I expected. Of course, including the Iron Curtain of Disney Plus, which is likely around 50 to 60 million. But if the budget is around $200 million, the Iron Curtain of Disney Plus is not going to save Cruella. Okay, it will need to make like $400 to $500 million to make back its money. Which, for some reason, Disney's making a sequel to Cruella. Spirit Untamed, no one gives a crap about Spirit Untamed. The movie's not doing too well because of Peter Rabbit, as I predicted. But the movie's a flop. No one's watching it internationally. It's dead internationally already. And next is stuff like Wire. Wire dropped 86% because of Peter Rabbit. So Wire is basically dead in the water now. Okay. Cruise and New Age, that's still in fetus for some reason. Okay. Godzilla, they don't even have that on the list still. But yeah, there we go about here. And yeah, there we go. Cruella, box office failure. Spirit Untamed, box office failure. And if In the Heights is not capturing an international audience, In the Heights is another box office failure. So it just seems they have box office failure after box office failure. But In the Heights might do really well in Mexico and Brazil and Latin America, which they are releasing feeders there. So we're gonna wait on the Latin American box office, where this movie is trying to capture that audience. So, and this movie might have rings again. Ari, the Greatest Showman, a movie which again, In the Heights doesn't really have any real competition, since the movies that are coming out are action movies. And there's no real other musicals coming out. Okay, unless you gotta talk about anything, until like, there's no real movies that are gonna be similar to this movie. So this movie will be a unique movie coming out. And Peter Rabbit will have ratings for the next 2 weeks because there's no other family movies. I think even Spirit might have decent ratings and end up around 20 million worldwide, which is still a abysmal failure. But again, DreamWorks is not that has had its failures before. Okay, has had its box office failures and flops before. DreamWorks is not immune to having box office flops. Which they do have another movie coming out in a couple of weeks, which is The Boss Baby 2, which I think will actually make back its money. On HBO Untamed. Which is also regurgitation of a TV show. So yeah. Next week we have The Hitman's Bodyguard. Wife's Bodyguard, which is the sequel to the heavily loved Hitman's Bodyguard. Okay. Okay, so yeah. Yo. And yeah, the box office, is. But yeah, people are expecting, massive box office gains from, these movies. And the movie that topped the box office was a movie that came out like 2 weeks ago. Which is something that rarely actually happens at the box office. It rarely ever happens. A movie tops the box office and loses it to a big release, and then the big release doesn't do well, and the movie is top down. So I think Hitman's Bodyguards will top around 13 to 14 to 15 million. So yeah, this movie, Hitman's Bodyguard, we don't know the budget for the movie. Basically, I'll have to look it up. But yeah, both Peter Rabbit and The Heights basically have a $45 and $55 million budget respectively. So both of these movies, if they get their acts together, should do well and make back the money. So again, In the Heights, they're expecting it to be like $20 million and be a massive hit. But this movie underperformed significantly, which was in the original expectations to begin with. So I wasn't expecting this movie to make money, that much money opening weekend, okay, and be one of those wiggy type movies, okay. There's always a lot of those types of movies that are like that. So next weekend we only have Hitman's Bodyguard coming out. That's the big new movie for next week, and we're going to see how well that movie performs. Goodbye.